Welcome to Spoiler Piece Theater, the podcast that doesn't give a shit about spoilers. We just want to talk about the movies. My name is Megan Kearns. My pronouns are she, her. I write film reviews for Edge Media Network. I'm a co-host of the Slashers podcast, a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and a member of Gallica, the Society of LGBTQ Entertainment Critics.
My name is Dave Riedel. I write about movies. My pronouns are he, him, and I am also a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association.
And my name is Evan Crean. My pronouns are he, him. I am co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, co-author of your 80s Movie Guide to Better Living, and co-host of the It's the Pictures podcast.
Yes, you are. Everyone should go check that out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, of course.
Appreciate the plug.
Always. Okay, so this week we're talking about a couple of new movies. And before we get into that, we want to tell you about Patreon. Every week we put out bonus episodes. And this week we're talking about the 1985 terrifying film Return to Oz. We had a lively conversation talking about that potentially scarring film.
I'm still looking through my fingers right now as we're having this conversation.
So go check it out. And if you're not a patron, consider joining. And speaking of patrons, we want to give a huge shout out, huge thank you to our sponsor piece patron, Heather Sachs. So thank you, Heather.
Thanks, Heather.
Thanks, Heather.
All right. So this week, we are going to be talking about the thriller Rounding and the sci-fi action horror film The Gorge. So let's start with Rounding. It's a thriller with some horror elements and dramatic elements, and it's directed by Alex Thompson, who also directed the critically acclaimed film Ghostlight, as well as St. Francis, and he wrote it along with Christopher Thompson. And it stars Namir Smallwood, Sidney Flanagan, Michael Potts, and Rebecca Spence. And here is the synopsis from the press release. A driven young medical resident transfers to a rural hospital for a fresh start. There, the demons of his past start to catch up to him when he becomes consumed by the case of a young asthma patient. So he has this traumatic incident that happens where a patient of his that he's clearly very concerned about, potentially very close to, as, close like a doctor-patient, dies in front of him, and he's frozen by it and then passes out, and he's been away for quite a bit of time, and then he gets transferred to this other hospital that's much quieter because his boss thinks that it'll be better for him to kind of have a slower pace so he can ease back into being a doctor. And then he is recommended by his new boss to go to this program to work on his bedside manner because he has an interaction with a patient where the patient freaks out because he's too blunt about the diagnosis. And so he's like, you really need to work on that in your bedside manner. So he goes and he's basically like, this is bullshit. He doesn't want to be there. He's, just kind of pissed off about it. And he also clashes with his boss, and at one point, when there are other residents around, he's arguing about the diagnosis that's in the medical record. So he's having some issues in addition to his own issues where he's having nightmares, he can't really sleep, he's losing track of time, all kinds of problems. And so when he meets this patient played by Sidney Flanagan, she is an asthma patient, but she's got some strange symptoms and some other strange conditions in regards to her asthma that don't seem just like regular routine asthma. And as the film goes on, he becomes convinced that there's something shady going on with the mom, and he thinks that there's talk of it could be Munchausen by proxy, even though that now has a different name, and which they talk about in the film. And so he keeps wanting to investigate this case, but his boss is like, no, you're not doing that. You're not doing that. So much so he becomes so obsessed and consumed with this case that the mom puts an order on file where he has to stay away. And then what eventually happens is she dies. And then we find out more about that, and we find out more about why he was so traumatized by his patient dying earlier. And with the asthma patient dying, you find out that she was injecting into herself dirt and I believe fecal matter and other like disgusting things, basically because she didn't want to live or wanted to abuse herself. Not sure exactly.
Yeah, it's unclear.
Yeah. And then for him, we find out as he's talking to his boss that the patient that he was so distraught over was not just a patient, it was his mother. And his mother had wanted to die, but then kind of changed her mind. And so he is just distraught over the whole situation. So, yeah, so that's the film. Guys, what did you think of it? Evan, what did you think?
This movie was slow. So slow for being such a short movie. And what was the deal with the weird dogs with like the candles or lights on their
like
head?
the faces or whatever?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, candle faces.
What was the deal with that? I feel like the movie was slow. It felt kind of unfocused at times, like whether it was going to be, like you said, a thriller, like a medical movie. At times it feels like a medical procedural, and then other times it feels like a horror movie with like the weird demonic creature that he's seeing. There's the hallucinations. In some ways, this reminded me a lot of, there's that movie about the college student who is doing a crew.
Oh, The Novice. Yeah.
The Novice, yeah. The physical, like the body horror stuff in this felt very similar to The Novice, because there was like he like injures his leg falling down the stairs, and he's running on this like busted ankle and possibly gangrenous leg.
Yeah, that was
which
gross.
just goes away at the like
Right?
never doesn't after he pulls off his toenail or whatever that is. Never mentioned again.
No, never is resolved.
I hate this movie for making me watch that scene too, in all of its graphic detail of like looking at his foot and seeing him rip the toenail off. Ugh. I had to watch that one between my hands because it was just so nasty.
And 2 movies in 1 week.
I know, right? It's a rough week for you, Evan, and movie watching.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one of my other problems is I just didn't think the lead performance was any good. It felt very stiff, and I know the character is supposed to be like traumatized and having a really hard time confronting that trauma, just kind of like ignoring it, trying to power through it. But I just feel like all the other performances in this were pretty good, like especially his Michael Potts, who plays the doctor at the new hospital. I thought that was a really great performance.
Yeah,
although he did make some odd choices in the final few scenes, which I can talk about.
I agree, but I also think the final few scenes were just kind of odd in general, because the movie left me with some questions, like you said, Megan, where like, I guess this patient wanted to do this stuff to herself, but why?
Well, we don't know that she did. Her mother may have done it.
That's
Who
true.
knows?
Right. That's true.
That's true. He did steal the mother's purse and find the syringe in the mother's purse. So, like, why would it be in the mother's purse? Like, she like catch her daughter and like rip it out of her hand, or was she like giving her the?
Right, but if the mother caught it, wouldn't she have alerted the doctors and be like,
you would think,
what is going on here? Yeah, like it's just suspicious.
So I felt like the movie ended, and I kind of was not sure what my takeaway was. Like, what am I supposed to take away from all of this? And that was a bummer, because this sounded like a really good idea on paper. Like, I liked the idea of a doctor who's like obsessed with a patient and is also dealing with some type of trauma that's kind of like reminding them of another really awful patient experience. Anyway, I wish I liked this. It was a slog. I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, you know? All right, Dave, what did you think?
This worked for me a lot more than it worked for Evan, but I think that by and large, it has a lot of narrative problems. It is it's really unfocused.
Mhm.
It doesn't know whether it's a medical procedural, a psychological thriller, and horror adjacent. It's not, I mean, the whole visions of dogs with candles on their heads. I don't know. I don't know what that fucking means.
The body horror is there.
Well, yes, the body horror is there, true. I feel like body horror a lot of times, though, is its own thing because it's just so visceral. It's viscerally visceral. I went to school.
I like to use the words goopy when describing body horror.
Yeah. And this is like goopy and flaky. So, there's that. But we were talking about the way that doesn't get resolved at all. In the final scene, presumably he's still hobbled, but there's no mention of it. I sort of understand that the story ends when he's given that story ends when the explanation is given that she injected herself, which, by the way, we don't know whether that's true.
Right.
I thought it was very strange that Dr. Harrison, although Dr. Harrison does seem to be a sort of push aside things that are either problematic or to him not important. He seems to be that kind of person. So maybe that's got something to do with it. I think it's highly likely that the mother was doing all this. That at the same time, though, if you're 19, are you knocking your daughter out every time you shoot her with whatever? Or are you telling her, oh, this is your asthma medication, it's new, disregard the fact that it looks like fecal matter? I don't know. Yeah. There are a lot of things that don't quite add up. Unlike Evan, I thought Namir Smallwood's performance did work. I think it's just it's kind of a thankless part. It's like you have to feel sympathy for this guy, but if you've ever seen a movie before, that the trauma he experienced at the beginning is someone he was either very close to or a relative or his mother. You have to know that. It's like when you get to the end of what is the fucking book and movie? The one with Michael J. Fox where he does all the cocaine.
Oh, Secret of My Success?
No, not that one. The one before it. The James Bridges movie.
I like that this is not a clear answer on this.
Light of Day?
Does all the cocaine.
No, that's Joan Jett. Yeah.
The one that's written in second person, Jay McInerney.
Oh, God. I don't know.
Bright Lights of Big City.
Yeah, that's it.
You get to the end of that and you find out the whole reason that he got into coke is because his mom got cancer. And it's like, this is the denouement?
Wait, what?
Fuck you. Yeah.
Oh.
It's like, this is stupid. I mean, not that, things like that don't cause people to go off the deep end, but not in fucking books. Give me a break. This movies in real life are different. Anyway, so I just kind of feel like when it is confirmed that was his mother, it's sort of like, well, yeah, duh. And then the way that Dr. Harrison or Michael Potts is just like, oh, you gave your mother a lethal dose of potassium chloride. It happens.
Yeah.
What?
His reaction was a little puzzling. I actually wanted to ask you, Dave, when you're in the process of talking about this, and you as well, Megan, do you feel like he reported him after this for what happened? Because it didn't necessarily seem like he was or was disturbed enough by this. I mean, yeah, I guess it was his mom, so it's kind of different, but it's still
there's also
killing
no
a patient
real
that's frowned upon.
Right.
There's no record of it though, unless they exhume her body and do an autopsy. It's his word against word, right? So
I guess so. I'd imagine they would take the boss's word.
Right.
You would
seriously, given his position at that hospital.
Right. He seems to be far more concerned, though, that he had a, quote, nervous breakdown, which is not the proper terminology for that at all, but that's a whole other thing. But I'm just like, wow, this is so ableist, but okay. But I'm just like, he seems far more concerned about that and pissed that he didn't know about that than he is about the guy giving his mother a lethal dose and being unethical and treating his mother anyway.
Yeah. That was just weird.
Yeah, it is.
It was a very weird interaction, and I was kind of scratching my head about the whole thing.
I think that's fair because I don't think there is a clear-cut answer, and maybe it's intentionally ambiguous.
I mean, I think a lot of the ambiguity in this is intentional, but I also think it's not very clever.
Yeah, no.
it seems like, well, you can ask questions and not answer them, but I would like to think that you present it as a viewpoint, but they don't really. It's kind of like, well, maybe, I don't know. And then that's the scene where Michael Potts has some very strange face acting, which works fine, but it is bizarre. You know, his whole like almost like, it's almost
Smirk?
like a lecherous smile. Yeah. That turns into like frowns a couple times. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing, Michael Potts? You're a great actor. What is this? It's not bad. It's just weird. And I don't know. I was also distracted by the fact that Rebecca Spence looks like Carrie Coon. So I was just like, why is Carrie Coon light in this movie? But it's not Carrie Coon.
It's funny. She reminded me of somebody else too, but not Carrie Coon. That's so funny that we both like were distracted by her looking like someone else.
Well, I also feel like Carrie Coon looks different in every movie.
She does. She very much does.
So this one, she kind of reminded me of crap. I can't remember which movie, so I won't belabor the point. I already did that with Bright Lights, Big City. So yeah, I think a lot of this I think there are a lot of good like Evan, I think there are a lot of good pieces here. And I think that had they chosen a more consistent tone, I think that would have worked a lot better. I mean, I think you take out the horror, right? Mm-hmm. The dog horror. Maybe you leave in the ankle horror because maybe that's, you're so distracted, you're so sleep deprived, whatever.
That feels on point.
You mess up your ankle, you don't report it. Although you think one of his colleagues would have been like, you've been hobbling for 6 weeks.
Right.
Maybe we should have that looked at.
Or is he hallucinating that too?
Maybe.
Could be.
It's also unclear. And I feel like unclear in a more focused narrative isn't bad. But in this, it's kind of like, well, you got a lot of meandering going on in 90 minutes. So you've given me time to think about this. You know what I was interested in? I was interested in his roommate apparently talking to everybody in his family who has some sort of illness that he's treating over the phone. I thought that was amazing. What's more? Let me hear more of that fucking crazy story.
I at first when that guy showed up, when he was like banging on the door like he was, I thought this guy's gonna be really fucking annoying. But then I actually kind of grew to like him in a weird way.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, I also appreciated how all the residents, even though they were kind of like, you're a little weird, James, were still like, well, he had some issues though. And they all seem to be looking out for each other. Even the guy who he's discussing the diagnosis with the doctor and telling him he's wrong in front of the patient, the Scott Grimes looking guy.
Oh God, that was so awkward.
I know.
Having this whole thing, like the patient's right here. I feel like this is really inappropriate.
And also, was Helen it's so weird to see a young person named Helen. I feel like old people wrote this movie. Was she the girl in the grocery store who stole the thing and put it in her pocket? It was. Okay. I thought so. I see it now. I would have thought that would have been, because I thought it was her, but then I was like, well, maybe it wasn't. But I think that would have been kind of like a neat thing to sort of draw them together. Like, hey, we have a secret. You can trust me. Like, tell me the truth about you shooting fecal matter into your lungs. Yeah. Anyway, there were a lot of things I liked about it, and there were a lot of things that just make me go like, this is a bad choice.
The sleep deprived part was well done, I thought. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. Like his lost time piece, I thought that was actually effective. When there were several moments when I felt like it was done well, but one that's coming to mind is when the coworker said, "Oh, what'd you get up to this weekend?" And he's like, "Weekend? It's Friday." And she's like, "No, it's Monday morning." I go, "Oh my God, you lost an entire weekend. That is scary."
Yeah. It's right out of an L. Frank Hubbard novel. Oh my God, I said his name. Sorry.
Wait, who?
You mean L. Ron Hubbard?
L. Ron Hubbard. I'm confusing L. Frank Baum and L. Ron Hubbard because we talked about Return to Oz. Excuse me. Well, maybe I need fucking sleep. Jeez.
I now all I can think about is there's this book that Rami has is called Literary Cats, and it just has famous book titles and authors if they were cat versions.
Oh,
And it's The Wizard of Paws by L. Ferenc, like Ferenc Bong.
Yeah.
that's so cute.
Well, anyway, that's where I come down. How about you, Megan?
Yeah.
Meow. Yeah, I have similar views to both of you in that I think there's some good ideas here. I think there's a good premise here. I am always intrigued by the exploration of trauma, and I actually really like the horror elements here. I wanted it to lean more into those because I like the infusion of the nightmares and the hallucinogenic elements. I think they're very murky here, but I like it conceptually. And much like you, Evan, I also like the distortion of reality and the losing track of time. I think that works really, really well, and it really throws you off as an audience in a great way. And I like how that's mixed with the realism of the medical challenges and the goriness of what's happening with his ankle. Jesus. Yeah. I also like the supporting performances. I think those are really great. I think Sydney Flanagan is extremely talented. She's incredible in Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always. It's a film I think about quite often, and her performance in it. Like both of you, I love Michael Potts. Michael Potts was so good as Brother Mazzone on The Wire, and he was excellent on that. He's excellent in everything he's in. I think he's excellent here. But I, much like you, Evan, had a problem with Namir Smallwood. I did not like his performance. I can see what you're saying, Dave, in that it is a thankless role. It's extremely understated. I think it's too understated for me. It felt really flat, and I feel like for this role you need a stronger lead. So it just didn't. The performance did not work for me. I don't think it was bad by any means, just not strong enough. It was just kind of there. I found this that in addition to that, I don't think the visuals were very strong. Much like the writing and the ambiguity and the theming being very murky, I felt the visuals were too.
Yes.
I don't feel like they were striking enough. And I feel like if you're going to lean into this atmospheric, horror adjacent realm, you need to have really captivating visuals. And so for me, the film was not atmospheric enough or compelling enough to really capture my attention. And so this, sadly, I think there's some good ideas here, but it just didn't work for me. It didn't all come together. So
that's a bummer.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that we agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Flat was a great description of that performance.
Oh, thank you.
You are dismissing the fact that I largely agree with you too. I just feel differently about Mr. Smallwood's performance.
Yeah, no. It worked a little more for you, but no. I think, I agree with both of you. I think you both are right about a lot of this.
This is one of those movies where it's just kind of like I'm not disappointed because I'm not the movie's parent, but. But it's sort of
think
like
about this on the ride home, young man.
Yeah, I just see a lot of missed opportunities here.
Yeah.
Like some zigs when you should have zagged, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes, and Alex Thompson is clearly a talented filmmaker, but I don't know why it didn't all come together. I don't know if it's because it's a different genre. I don't know if there were other reasons why it didn't all work. I don't know if it was a script issue, just not sure, but
could be. Yeah. St. Francis, I remember really enjoying.
Yeah, that's a great film. Also, Kelly O'Connor, she makes an appearance in here too as one of the nurses.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah,
Kelly O'Sullivan.
Thank you, Kelly O'Sullivan. Yeah, she's she's the blonde nurse who asks him about something. I don't remember.
Yeah, doesn't she like let him back in when he says, "Oh, like my key card's not working"?
Yes,
she's like, "You're not supposed to be here,"
right.
But he's like, "Oh, I don't have a coat." I'm like, "Okay, here, I'll let you in." But if I was her, I would have been like, "Okay, let's walk you to your coat, not just let you go in and run amok."
Yeah, there's too many weird things I have a lot of questions.
Mm-hmm.
Is this, or is it trying to show that this hospital is so understaffed and underfunded that they're just kind of like things are falling
she
apart?
knows. She knows. You know, she hesitates for a good like 8 seconds before she gets out her key card and swipes him in.
Then why let him in?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what? I think we're thinking she's the wrong. I think she's a resident. I think she's the blonde resident who's with them, who says, "No, it's Monday morning." I think that's her.
Okay.
And it's just like the guy that he argues with in front of the patient. That guy doesn't really get mad at him. You know, it's like he should.
Yeah,
but
right.
There's this sort of, one of the things I think this movie does pretty well, actually, is they have a camaraderie just because they're all like, this is fucking crazy. You know, just like the work load, etc. So.
That's true.
Yeah.
If Grey's Anatomy has taught me anything about doctors and hospitals, and I know that is a documentary, it's so accurate. They are all going to band together.
I mean,
think they're
Shonda
boning
Rhimes
each
is
other.
known
Yeah.
as a great documentarian, right?
Yes. Yes, they're going to bone. Yes, Shonda Rhimes is a documentarian.
I think the boning thing is true. I don't know. I read that in Encyclopedia Britannica.
I mean, I feel like, I don't know when there would be time, but also there wouldn't be time to meet other people. So what are you going to do?
Yeah. It's like, well, I could sleep for these 30 minutes.
Right?
Or, you know, the hot blonde on the, gut rotation is free at the same time.
Rotation.
The gut rotation?
I don't know what you call like general, internal surgical whatever, like Meredith.
I think that's
it's general surgery, isn't it? When you do things like,
yeah. I like how you
Meredith's specialty on Grey's Anatomy. So
I know, now I want to go watch Grey's Anatomy.
The gut specialist. That's one of my better ones, I think.
That is a good one.
I dig it.
You should be proud of yourself. That was good.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any final thoughts on rounding?
Nah.
Wish I liked
Round this. This movie was finished in 2022.
Yes.
I think it played Tribeca in 2022.
Yes.
So it's had trouble getting a distributor? I don't know.
I would imagine, although I do wonder if perhaps the success, like the critical acclaim of Ghostlight, might have helped. I don't know. Or maybe not. Maybe it just worked out that way. You're right.
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows indeed. Well, somebody knows, but anywho, let's talk about our next film, which is The Gorge. This is a sci-fi action horror film. It is directed by Scott Derrickson, who did Doctor Strange and Sinister and other films. And it's written by Zach Dean, and it stars Anya Taylor-Joy, Miles Teller, and Sigourney Weaver. And here's the synopsis from the press release. 2 highly trained operatives grow close from a distance after being sent to guard opposite sides of a mysterious gorge. When an evil below emerges, they must work together to survive what lies within. So Miles Teller in this is a black ops type sniper. He's a almost said a critically acclaimed Marine. He's a highly
5 stars Marine.
Yes, I know, right? Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
He's a decorated. That's the word I was trying to think of. He's a decorated Marine. He is no longer actively in the military, but he does work with the military, and he also does a lot of contract work as a sniper. He's got an impressive resume with his long-range snipering and his accuracy levels. And so Sigourney Weaver calls him in for a job, and he assumes that she is in the FBI, and she gives him this assignment to guard this watchtower, essentially, of this gorge. And before that, she asks him, like, oh, do you have anybody? Do you have any, like, a significant other? Do you have kids? Do you have any family who would miss you if you were gone? And he's like, no. And so this is a year-long assignment, which should have been a huge red flag. But
right. No kidding.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing. But this is a year-long assignment. And when he arrives, and he doesn't know where he is, he gets knocked out. Yeah. And when he wakes up and arrives, he is relieving the other person who's there, and the other person who's there kind of fills him in and tells him briefly like what's going on. And he tells him that you have to be careful of the Hollow Men, which is their nickname. And he is like, I think it's this portal to hell, which sounds like so stupid. But that actor is such a phenomenal actor that I think he makes it sound like believable and palatable and not super cheesy. But anyway, so he's like, they'll try to climb. You don't see anything now, but they will try to climb up and you have to shoot them down so they don't climb up out of the gorge. So meanwhile, Anya Taylor-Joy is also a sniper, and we are introduced to her as she is assassinating a leader, I think a prime minister or somebody. And
I thought he was like a warlord or like a arms dealer.
I remember the word oligarch. So
oligarch, would make
mix of the two, I guess.
Yeah, right.
Politician and arms dealer.
Yes, exactly. And she's talking to her dad, and she always keeps a souvenir of a shell and gives him a shell, and not a seashell, a shell from the gun. And she feels badly because he had kids and a wife, and the wife was there. And he's like, give me your shame. I will take your shame. And she is Lithuanian, but she's working in Russia. And so then she is the other person at the other guard tower that is also got to shoot the Hollow Men as they come out of the gorge, if they come out of the gorge. So pretty early on, Anya Taylor-Joy is writing messages on a notepad, and Miles Teller is like, we're not supposed to talk. And she's like, fuck that. It's my birthday. I'm going to do what I want. And so like literally, so then they start communicating back and forth via their notepads. And they also shoot at not at each other, but they like shoot things like to show that they're both great shots, and they kind of bond over that. And then as they each are doing like their patrols, they'll like watch each other and like wave and smile. And so they're having these like chats across the way. And then they decide to, she's having a tough time, and because she misses her dad and everything. And she also knows that like her dad is gonna like kill himself or something at a certain point.
Yeah,
and she realizes, yeah. And so she knows like that's happening. So she feels really despondent. And so she sends the message to him like, hey, I wish you were here. I know you can't be, but I wish you were here right now. So he concocts a rig so he can zip line across the gorge, and he brings flowers and she makes dinner, and they have a little date, and it's very cute. And then they hook up, and they're both like, ooh, you know, smooshy smooshy.
And smashy smashy. Don't forget that part.
That's I was like, that's the hookup part, but yes, you are absolutely
hookup,
right.
You covered it with hookup. See, I don't know.
Well, sometimes people think hookup is just making out, so that's fair.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, so
I usually throw in, vulgar words like bone.
Go in the bone
do
zone.
It.
Smashy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they do all that, and then and he's like, oh, I got to go back, and they're kind of sad about that. So as he's going back, ziplining back, of course, something goes awry. There's an explosion, and which has happened before. There have been explosions as the creatures hit certain parts in the gorge, because it's like tripwired. Yeah. And so one goes off, and all of a sudden he's falling, and he falls into the gorge. And Anya Taylor-Joy wastes no time, grabs her gear, grabs her shit, and dives literally into the gorge.
Base jumps into the gorge.
Yes, exactly. So then they both meet up after Miles Teller almost gets killed by some vining rooty plants that would have like stabby thorns on them. And then they're like, oh shit, we got to get out of here. And they don't have the repeller. She dropped it on the way down, so they have to climb, and they're not sure how to do that. So basically that's what they've got to do. They've got to survive the creatures that are in the gorge and get out. And on the way, no surprise, they find there's a mystery, and they're unraveling the mystery. And the mystery is Sigourney Weaver's not the FBI. It's a private contract firm, and all the people that are the Hollow Men are former military that they did medical testing and experiments on. And there was an explosion, and there was leaking gas, and so their bodies got deformed and kind of merged with like plants and creatures, and so they're like deformed plant creature, animal, insect creatures,
zombies.
And but some of them ride on horseback and have like plant heads coming out of them, very like kind of Green Knight, like the tree guy.
One has
in the
a
Green Knight.
snake like in his torso.
That's right.
And a third eye above one of his eyes.
There's
Little Last of Us mixed in there.
Exactly.
They look a little bit like clickers at points.
Yep. There's skulls with like spider bodies.
That scene. Oh, the spiders.
Yeah.
I was screaming on the inside like I would scream when I played Doom and the skull spiders came out.
Nice. And then they get out of the gorge and then have to deal with Sigourney Weaver, who's like, fuck that, I'm going, because she finds out on her spy cam, because they think they're cut off and there are no cameras. She finds out they went into the gorge and basically wants them both dead, and she's going to do it herself. And then they have to evade her, and then that's that. And then they do.
Yep. They blow her up.
Yes.
They blow the gorge up because there's this like tactical nuke that's just kind of sitting there waiting. And I think if it's like a certain alarm goes off, it will automatically trigger the nuke. And they had to get, what was it, like 4 kilometers away from it to be safe from the blast zone or something.
4.2.
Oh. Yep. And she's in the plane and gets engulfed in flames. And then Anya Taylor-Joy gets out, and she's not sure if Miles Teller makes it, but she had told him about how they could run off to France together. And so she's started a life for herself in France on the water, where she's waiting tables. And then time later, Miles Teller's at the restaurant that she works at. And then they smooch some more, smoochy smoochy. The end.
Would have preferred smashy smashy, but whatever.
All right. So, Dave, what did you think of this? We'll start with you this time.
This movie is fucking terrible. This movie is really just bad. I mean, it looks bad. The cinematography is bad. Pardon me. Some of the special effects are actually not bad. I think the tree dudes
look
pretty good.
Great. Yeah.
I think the whole idea of merging, and this is a screenplay thing, but merging plant DNA, whatevering, cool. I'm not sure I buy it, but cool. But I have some real problems with the pacing, and I think the real weak link in here more than anything is Miles Teller, which pains me to say. I think he's really bad in this, like bad. Like, I can see you acting bad. And I think that's because they're saying lines that no person should have to say, but that's all right. I also think Anya Taylor-Joy is clearly not a runner, when we see her jump off the gorge. I also think that the filmmakers think the audience doesn't know how 16 millimeter film works. There wouldn't be any fucking audio on that film that they roll.
It's true.
But that's fine.
That bothered me too when I was watching it.
Unless somebody took the time to burn the magnetic track. I'm sure that they did that while they were fucking genetically mutating at fucking Duart. Let's send this to Duart. Pick it up on Thursday morning. I don't believe that the East and West would have been doing these medical experiments together.
No.
I think that once they get down into the gorge, it's kind of an anticlimax. There's some cool shit in there, but at the same time, it's like, how are these things alive this long? I see, later we see that they're sort of like growing still with the plants, and some of that's actually kind of cool looking, the way they're all, but that seems like it's lifted right out of The Last of Us. Yep. From the TV version, although it might be a little too close together for it to actually have affected it. It might just be a coincidence. But it just doesn't hold up. think Sigourney Weaver's really slumming it. I think what I wrote, I'm going to read what I wrote on Letterboxd. When Sigourney Weaver signs up for movies like this, do you think she's ever like, I was an Alien and Ghostbusters and Gorillas in the Mist and Working Girl and Death and the Maiden and now The Gorge? Fuck. So now you two can tell me how wrong I am, but because every time I feel like I have like a real like negative reaction to something, I feel like one of you is going to be like, actually, this movie's amazing. Although I was watching this just going like, what is this stupid fucking, there's an entire town down there. They've kept this secret from everybody in the world. Are you kidding me? Ay, ay, ay.
It's the cloaking, Dave. They explained it. They have cloaking from the satellites.
That's right. That's right.
No one knows it's there.
That's right.
Right.
I'm sure you can't see a gorge that's fucking as big as the Great Wall of China from space, but okay. I mean, when he tells her like blah blah blah, I love you at the end of their date, it's just like, did you really say that? Because like you sound not like a person saying that. You sound like a guy who's like, I'm an alien, and I was told that I am supposed to say this to someone with whom I am in love.
I am not a person. I
love
am
you.
an alien robot.
Just really bad. Anyway, I just bumped my mic. That's how angry I was. I swatted my mic. No, it was an accident.
All right, Evan, what did you think?
Well, Dave, like so many movies, you've predicted correctly that I'm here to tell you that you're wrong. This movie is great.
Oh,
I actually enjoyed the shit out of this movie. I really did.
Did you watch it immediately after you watched it Rounding? Because then I'll cut you a break.
No.
Okay.
I watched it before.
Oh boy.
Okay. I'll admit there are some flaws. So cinematography, I agree, not good. Some of the special effects good, some very not good looking.
Mm-hmm.
Agree on the dialogue. Dialogue is not great. It's weirdly stilted, weirdly written, weirdly delivered by the actors. But I did enjoy this. I did like Miles Teller in it. I did like Anya Taylor-Joy in it. I went into this thinking I'm either going to think that this is bad or so bad it's good. And I just enjoyed it for what it was, which was a really fun sci-fi movie that also I was not expecting to be a rom-com at the same time. Like, I didn't realize that there was a romantic angle to this movie, and it made so much more sense knowing it was coming out for Valentine's Day after watching it. It's like, what is going on? This is a romance in addition to being a movie about people shooting monsters in a mysterious gorge. I was about it. I enjoyed Miles Teller. I enjoyed Anya Taylor-Joy. I think they had chemistry. I liked them together. And I like this idea of them getting to know each other over a series of months, just trading messages from a distance. And so when they finally met up, I was like, all right, I'm on board. I dig it. He made it, as Megan mentioned, he takes like a rocket launcher and turns it into like a grappling zipline rig just to get over there for the date. And then shows up and he's sweaty because it didn't carry him all the way. So then he had to like push himself manually. And she's like, you smell. Go take a shower. I just thought that was very funny. The conspiracy stuff does feel very derivative of other things, but I was having so much fun with it that I wasn't getting too bent out of shape about, like we said, the film would definitely not have audio in it. How could they have like hidden this gorge since what, the 1930s or 1940s is when they say that this disaster happened? How are these things still alive? There's so many questions if you sit here and think about this movie too hard. But I just was enjoying the ride of it. I was enjoying the set pieces, especially when they're in the Jeep, when they like take the winch on the Jeep and they're climbing the gorge in the Jeep and they're fighting the monsters as they're like climbing and they're knocking them off, and all that stuff was fun. I was about it. So yeah, I know. I'm sure you're both very surprised that I enjoyed this as much as I did, but not gonna lie, I had fun.
I'm actually not surprised. I might be surprised at the extent you enjoyed this, but not that you enjoyed it.
It surprised me. I really didn't think this was going to be good at all.
That's why you liked it. Because you were like, you know what? This movie's kind of going to be crap. And then you were like, hey, it's not crap.
Yeah.
You know?
I just remember seeing the trailer for it and I was like, is Anya Taylor-Joy doing some kind of accent?
She
what
sure
accent
is.
is that? Uh-oh. Nondescript accent that sounds vaguely Eastern European. Uh-oh.
That's precisely what's happening.
She's an accent person now. I just realized.
Yes.
Because she has, I mean, I've heard her speak. When she was in The Witch, she sounded like an American when I saw her in person talking with Robert Eggers.
Mm-hmm.
And now she sounds like somebody who learned to speak English in England. So, okay. All right, Anya Taylor-Joy.
Well, wasn't she? I think she was born in the U.S.
She's born in Argentina, isn't she?
Yeah, she's Argentinian, but she's also.
Is she? I thought she was born in the U.S. That's how she like weirdly had U.S. citizenship.
No, she might. I'm just saying she is Argentinian.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I'm not saying I actually don't know where she was born.
Yeah, but I think she grew up speaking English and Spanish at the same time, so that would explain why her accents
she definitely speaks Spanish too.
Are totally, quote normal unquote.
But you're right, because I was thinking she grew up in the UK, and guess what? We're all right because she was born in Miami, raised in Buenos Aires and London. So
yep, here we
all
go.
Right.
Yeah. Go us for knowing our
knowing our Anya Taylor-Joy.
I know, right? Did you say ATJ facts?
He did.
Yes,
he did.
Amazing.
He's actually writing a book, the ATJ facts.
It was
portfolio.
Just easier writing ATJ in my notes when I was taking notes on this movie.
Right. You could have gone by her character name, Drasa, I guess.
That's true.
But ATJ is much easier than both of those. Too funny.
Yeah.
I'm already thinking of fun nicknames. Drasa, the Kielbasa, whatever.
Drasa the Kielbasa.
Yeah, I just wanted to prove that I can rhyme.
Drasa the Killa Shasa.
Yeah, that's right. And then she's like, I know that you don't have the world record. I know who has it. Oh, is it you? Fuck off.
I mean, if you had the world record, wouldn't you be like gloating about that?
Why is she being fucking coy about it? It's like he knows that you have it. You know that you have it. Shut up.
They're flirting.
I know. It's just so.
You're like, it's Megan? So silly. Well, I think you both are right, but I agree with Dave.
I had a feeling. I got the sense that you were going to come down to the Dave camp. I really had no clue what either of you were going to think about this movie, by the way.
But I have to say, so I think this is a good premise. And I think that the special effects only in regards to the creatures, I think that's great. Like really great. It's interesting that you mentioned The Last of Us, Dave, because I do wonder if it was inspired by the video game, not the TV show, because this was a script. This was on the Blacklist script list.
This was on the Blacklist?
It was, from 2020. Like it came out in 2020, and I think it got picked up in 2022. But yeah, so it could have been inspired by the video game. I also was reminded of Annihilation. I'm also reminded of like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the 70s one, the amazing one, the masterpiece one. Like kind of with the merging of the DNA and everything. But that I really dug. I like that. And I liked Anya Taylor-Joy in this. I'm going to agree with you, Evan. I liked their chemistry. I don't think Miles Teller is good in this at all. I'm with you, Dave, on that. But I do weirdly like their chemistry. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know why. There's something about it that I like. And I agree with you that I like them flirting from a distance. I think, weirdly, that's the best part of the movie. Like, I think that's when the movie works. I think as soon as they go into the gorge with the conspiracy, I'm like, this is the dumbest fucking thing. I couldn't stand it. Like, this is just stupid. And the dialogue is also stupid. It was really bad. And also did not feel like real people talking, Dave. So I agree with you on that. So yeah, so I think the chemistry that would have worked, at least from a distance, because once they get together at the end of the movie, I'm like, well, this is just goofy. So
Yeah, it does get very goofy.
yeah, so I think their chemistry works from a distance, which what does that say? That's weird. But anyway, that worked. But yeah, I think a lot of people are wasted in this movie. I think all three of these actors are extremely talented. Anya Taylor-Joy and Sigourney Weaver more so than Miles Teller, but he is also very, very talented. I still love him in Whiplash.
I think he can be truly great.
He can. He can. Yeah, like I love him in Whiplash. I love him in other things too. So I agree. I just, I don't think he's as good here as the two of them.
Yeah. Or Sope Dirisu in his.
Oh my God, Sope Dirisu is so amazing. I love him in Mr. Malcolm's List. I love him in His House, and he is so good in this. Like really great in like such a small role. Like
you've got to be good if you're going to dump that much exposition,
right?
Yes,
but
I was thinking the same thing. It does
works. It does not feel like an exposition dump, even though it is 100% an exposition dump and is annoying because of it. But then I was like, but I love him so much that I don't even care. Like, I wanted more of him.
No, he's good. I'll give you that.
Yeah, I wanted way more of him. And I think if he was in it more, it would have been better. But but ultimately, I know. But ultimately, I think this movie is just bad. Overall, it's bad. Sadly. But I think there are good elements. So I can understand enjoying it, but I did not. I found it very tedious.
I said there were good elements. I said I think the premise is, I'll buy it. It's interesting. It's an interesting idea.
I'm agreeing with you.
I'm telling Evan because I think
you're very aggressive. You're very aggressively agreeing with him.
Yeah, Evan's gonna get off the show and be like, Shauna, check this shit out.
These two fools didn't like this great movie.
I mean, like I said, I really didn't know. I was like, there's a possibility they could really enjoy this, or a possibility they would really not enjoy this, and I really didn't.
Yeah.
Well, you know what though? It didn't make me mad. You two know.
Yeah, you don't seem mad about this.
You're just like, this is dumb.
Yeah, that's a good sign. You're not like, Dave.
I wasn't bored. I was just kind of like watching this, going like, oh come on.
Yeah.
And from that point of view, it was actually kind of fun. Because it's like, this is. Because unlike you, Evan, I thought the skull spiders, I was like, no, okay.
When they were like crawling up his back and stuff like that, ugh.
I was more creeped out by the root branch thorn thing, claw things.
They were like bones that were like coming out of the ground and trying to swallow him up like a mouth that just formed out of nowhere.
It was like a Venus flytrap, but like human-sized, like root bones. Like, whoa. Yeah. That was great.
You know what was actually interesting about that? I'll give the screenplay credit for this. When she walks up to and he's like, "Be careful, it's an adhesive." I was like, interesting. It's like you shouldn't really pay attention to a line like that, but it's like a character thing. I'm warning you because I care about you.
Right.
I
will say though, a knock on the screenplay. We're giving praise, we're taking it away.
Yeah.
Listen, I am a huge fan of T.S. Eliot's The Hollow Men. It is my absolute favorite poem of all poems of all time. But if I had to hear one more time him talking about T.S. Eliot and like mansplaining to her, I was going to lose my goddamn mind. I'm like, what is happening? Like things are just way too on the nose. And like, do we need everything explained to us?
Well, you know what? I can't remember where I heard this, but the theory is that because you can watch Netflix movies while doing other things as background noise.
Yes.
That's why characters explain things directly. Now,
That's
I don't know
true.
if I buy that. I think it might just be shitty screenwriting. But if that's true, it makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's also really strange to cast Anya Taylor-Joy as someone who doesn't know much about T.S. Eliot, considering I just kind of look at her and be like, you look smart. So.
Well, I think it's the fact that we heard it multiple times in the movie. Like, it's not like we just hear it once when he's telling her, but like, it's just over and over. I'm just like, okay, we get it.
Yeah. Oh,
you're a poetry nerd. We get it.
Right.
Yeah. I wanted to mention.
I'm not a poetry guy, so I was actually grateful for the explanation on the T.S. Eliot thing because I'm like,
okay.
I don't know T.S. Eliot, so like, okay, cool. Thanks for telling me.
We are the hollow
men.
We are the stuffed men, and also this is the way the world ends, not with a bang but a whimper.
Yes, that's a yes. I know that line.
I love that line. Anyway, but yes. So okay, see that I guess that makes. I'm glad you said that, Evan, because here I am thinking like this is so fucking annoying. But you're like, oh, I'm glad.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, I gotta look up this poem now. This sounds cool.
This poem is amazing. It's incredible. But anyway,
quick question for you, Megan.
Yes.
Isn't T.S. Eliot the person behind Cats?
Yes.
The origin of Cats.
Yeah, that is correct. That is correct.
Well,
the poem.
Thanks for fucking that, T.S. Eliot.
Well, I don't think he had concocted it to be a goddamn wacky musical.
I'm sure he didn't. I remember, this is how old I am. Remember when Cats was huge?
Yes.
No, you don't.
And there were ads everywhere for
ads.
it.
Remember
everywhere.
the anti-smoking ad they did?
Yes,
oh my God.
do. That was bonkers.
Cats have 9 lives, but humans have 1.
What?
Fucking weird, man.
It was so crazy. The 80s, I'm telling you, they were a wild, weird time.
One other thing I wanted to mention about this, and this is something Chris used to talk about all the time when he was on the show, is how Netflix movies have a Netflix look. And this movie, look, we talked about how the cinematography is bad. This movie fits the Netflix aesthetic inside and out. It's so Netflixy.
But it's not Netflix.
Yeah, it's Apple TV.
It's Apple TV.
Okay, it looks like then they have the same thing.
Isn't that crazy? That's why I was like, that's what's so crazy. I know what you mean. It does look like a Netflix film.
It does.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was thinking to myself while I'm watching it, like, what would this actually look like on the big screen? Like they were trying to trick me with a TV movie that they just showed on a movie screen? You know?
So they're trying to trick you.
I'm just talking about the look. I'm not talking about the content. But now I know that Apple TV movies and Netflix movies have a similar aesthetic, or at least this one does.
Yeah, this one does.
Anyway, hats off to Chris for that little thing there that I remembered however many years later.
Over 5.
Yeah, even though that I was apparently half wrong.
Oh, you mean about being Apple TV? Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I would say, like seeing some of the other movies, I don't think they have this same aesthetic, but I do think there definitely is a made for TV kind of quality to some of the like sci-fi actioners that the different streamers are putting out.
Yes.
They're generally like kind of murky looking overall, and maybe to kind of cover up when they don't have the budget to do better effects.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. I really wish sci-fi movies got away from the notion that they had to be big budget, though, because you can do really tiny budget and small scale and be brilliant.
Everyone's favorite, The Twilight Zone.
Yeah, exactly. You got to focus on the writing. That's the key, especially with sci-fi. Writing is everything. The story is everything with sci-fi. I would argue with most films, but especially in sci-fi, it hinges on good writing.
I have a question for you, both of you.
Oh, yes, please.
What the fuck happened with Dune? Oh! I went there. Big budget and a crummy story.
Wrong. Ding dong, wrong.
Oh my God.
One of these days I'll weigh in when I actually see the Dune movies.
Yes. I love all the Dune movies. All of them. I love David Lynch's. I love Denis Villeneuve's. And I love the Sci-Fi Channel ones too. So, yes.
I wouldn't say that I love any of them, but I will say I hold a special place in my heart for David Lynch's Dune, if only because those guns that they're shooting at the end, you can clearly tell the actors are just going like, ding, like that.
They're making their recoil.
Yeah.
You know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of in Star Wars, the prequels, when Liam Neeson and Ewan McGregor were doing lightsaber dueling, and they were making the noises. They were doing like ding, ding with their mouths. And they were like, guys, you don't need to do that. It was amazing.
I should have left it in.
I know. That would have been incredible.
God, that would be. I mean, it wouldn't have made the movie any worse. So, man, I'm just going on a tear.
I know. Tearing up Star Wars, tearing up Dune.
Everything is shat tonight, apparently.
Yeah, it's a rough week.
Oh, well.
But Dune is great, and so are the Star Wars prequels.
You know, the Denis Villeneuve Dunes, I'm kind of agnostic about them. I think they work just fine. It's just not my thing.
All right. Do we have any final thoughts about The Gorge. I almost said, I was like, whatever this movie is.
About Dune.
Yeah, about Dune. Do you have any final thoughts on Dune? On The Gorge.
Nope.
Great. What about you, Evan?
No, I think we covered it.
All right. So let's do a recap. Rounding is out in theaters and on VOD. Would you guys recommend it?
I don't think so.
No, sadly.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
and unless you
Oh,
want to
yeah.
watch it as an exercise to like maybe afterward you could cobble together your own version of it that's better than Rounding.
Interesting. All right.
Workshop it.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the only time a remake should really, I don't want to say only happen, but I feel like if you think like you could do a different perspective or different angle, or you can do it better maybe. But I also agree, I would not recommend it, sadly. And The Gorge, which is on Apple TV Plus.
I think you know where I come down. I would enthusiastically endorse The Gorge.
Enthusiastically, I love it. Dave,
Yep.
I think you're going to say pass. Is that right?
I mean, you know,
since you said it was
you
shit.
could watch it, but maybe take a couple of the cyanide capsules like the people in the church have in the movie and just be ready with it. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. I think this is a pass because there are better films that these three actors are in, and there are better films than what this is doing. But I will say there is something interesting in the chemistry between Anya Taylor-Joy and Miles Teller. So,
yeah.
Mhm.
Go rewatch The Spectacular now.
oh, I've never seen it, so I should watch that.
That's a good Miles Teller performance.
Oh,
for
all
sure.
right. All right. I'm adding it to my queue. Got to watch it.
I was just going to say, you know who Miles Teller reminds me of? Shia LaBeouf, if he didn't irritate the shit out of me. There you go.
And wasn't an abusive piece of shit, but
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't even thinking about that part, but yes, you're right about that too.
that too. All right. Well, we want to give a huge thank you to our editor, Otto Clammer. Otto, thank you so much for making us sound great week after week.
Thank you, Otto.
Thanks, Otto.
You can find Spoiler Piece Theater anywhere you get podcasts. You can also find us at our website, spoilerpiece.com. You can also find us all over the place at social media. We're at Spoiler Piece on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, Threads, and Blue Sky. So come follow, come say hello. Let us know. Did you love The Gorge? Were you also frustrated by Rounding? Or are we dead wrong and we're missing something and it's the most amazing movie this year? Let us know. We want to hear what you think, and we want to know.
Let's hear it.
Yeah, we want to know your opinions on movies. If you have questions for us, you can email us spoilerpiece@gmail.com, or you can give us a call
At 862-21-PEACE.
You can leave us a voicemail message, text us, and let us know what you think. If you like the show, please consider rating and reviewing us. You can go to ratethispodcast.com/spoilerpiece. It will take you to your preferred platform of choice, and that helps us get the word out. You can also rate us directly on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. It's a big help. And if you really, really like the show, you can become a patron if you're not already. For $5 a month, you get access to weekly bonus episodes like this week's, where we talk about Return to Oz. And it is a whoo-hoo boy. It is a wild conversation. So
Oh, yeah, it is.
if you're a patron, go check it out. If you're not, consider joining. You also get access to our back catalog of bonus episodes, hundreds of them, and you get to vote in monthly polls, which is cool. And if you really, really like the show too, you can also get our merch. If you go to our website, you can go to our TeePublic store from there and get all kinds of goodies like t-shirts, mugs, hoodies, pillows, notebooks, a whole bunch of good stuff.
Yes. You can get Spoiler Piece pillows.
Yes, you can. You can
I
cuddle.
have one.
You can you can cuddle up with us.
Do you really?
I do.
Yes, I know.
Nice.
I love that. I think you sent us a picture of that one time. I love
Yeah,
that.
the pillow, the mug, the magnet, and a
I have
notebook.
the magnet.
Nice,
The baseball tee is one of my favorites.
nice.
Oh, I have a T-shirt too. Of
I
course,
need to get a T-shirt. I haven't because I never know what size because it always depends on the material. Anyway,
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
need to just bite the bullet and get it. And I need a magnet too because I'm obsessed with magnets, and probably a mug. Anyway, now that you all know my shopping list for Spoiler Bees,
You know, the stuff we want to buy from our own store.
right? Maybe you want to buy from it too. But Thank you so much for listening. My name is Megan Kearns. I write for Edge Media Network. I'm a co-host of the Slashers podcast. I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and I'm a member of Gallica. You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Opinion S World, or on Instagram and Letterboxd at The Opinion S.
My name is Dave Riedel. I write about movies. I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and you can follow me on Instagram, Letterboxd, Blue Sky, and Threads. I'm Dave Sees Movies.
And my name's Evan Crean. I'm co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, co-author of your 80s Movie Guide to Better Living, and co-host of the It's the Pictures podcast. And you can follow me on social media as Real Recon, and that's real as in film reel.
Thanks so much, guys, for this fun conversation. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.